Hey everyone, Lauren Carpenter here with FantasyPros, and thank you so much for checking out our YouTube channel. In today's video, I am going to share with you 10 players who are on my never again fantasy football team. Now, my 10 players will probably be different than your 10 players, and the reasons why yours are on your list are likely going to be different from where mine are on my list. But without further ado, let me go ahead and share with you 10 players I will never roster in fantasy football. Derek Carr, quarterback, Las Vegas Raiders. This may sound like a no-brainer, especially for single QB leagues, but I've been enticed to stream Carr in the past, and I have held on to him for juicy matchups. Those matchups rarely worked out well in my favor. To make matters worse for Carr, his offensive line got worse in the offseason. He has no bona fide stud at wide receiver, obviously not including Darren Waller at tight end. He doesn't have the rushing or passing volume upside to be a top option, and he's perpetually on the trade block in one of the toughest divisions in football. I would rather snag a quarterback a little later in the draft, say the 10th round or beyond, than be stuck with Derek Carr. He has never finished better than a QB2 throughout his season and is a boom or bust quarterback that you cannot rely on. Russell Wilson, quarterback, Seattle Seahawks. This likely will not be a popular opinion, but I cannot in my right mind have Russell Wilson on my fantasy squad in single QB leagues. First of all, his ADP is way too high to justify drafting him, and he hasn't been able to sustain QB1 numbers all season long in the last 2 years. After starting 2020 on fire amid the quote, "let Russ cook" narrative, the proverbial wheels fell off from the QB in the second half of the season. He finished as the QB1 only twice after week 10 and was a middle to bottom quarterback or worse the rest of the time. I do not want to deal with a tale of 2 seasons yet again in 2021. Will Fuller, wide receiver, Miami Dolphins. Props to Miami for giving quarterback Tua Tagovailoa a stacked group of pass catchers, but this is a situation where the Dolphins fans and the fantasy players are on starkly different sides. This offense is full of receiving options for a quarterback who threw 181.4 yards per game with a 52.5 QBR. Even if he improves in his second season, don't expect enough passing numbers from Miami's offense to make Fuller, Devontae Parker, Jalen Waddle, and even Mike Gesicki viable fantasy options. With season after season of boom or bust, Fuller will remain on my never-again team, even in Miami. Evan Engram, tight end, New York Giants. Engram's breakout rookie year is looking like a mirage. Between injuries in 2018 and 2019 and finishing 4th in drops in 2020, the Giants look to have reached their limit. They made a massive splash with Kenny Golladay in free agency and an under-the-radar signing with Kyle Rudolph. They doubled down, selecting wide receiver Kadarius Toney in the first round of the draft. The team did everything short of releasing or trading Engram. It is hard to see how Engram fits into a meaningful fantasy role in this offense. Golladay and Rudolph present traditional red zone targets, while Toney and Sterling Shepard provide more reliable options in the middle of the field. I believed in Engram after his explosive rookie year, but I've been burned every year after that. Miles Sanders, running back, Philadelphia Eagles. After buying into the Sanders hype, despite my better judgment, might I add, I am over Miles Sanders for 2021, and I am not taking a dip into that pool a second time. Sanders finished as the RB22 in half PPR scoring last year over 12 games, and did have some impressive finishes, but he also had some terrible ones as well. The Eagles are going through some interesting changes this year with a new coaching regime and a new quarterback. There are too many question marks surrounding Sanders in 2021 for me to feel comfortable with him on my team. Josh Jacobs, running back, Las Vegas Raiders. Speaking of question marks and the Raiders, Jacobs is firmly on my never-again team for a multitude of reasons. Primarily, it is the addition of Kenyon Drake and his guaranteed $11 million contract, but it was also his actions and his results from 2020. Yes, he finished as the RB8, which is all fine and dandy, but he finished as the RB31 or worse, much worse, 5 times in 15 games. In all honesty though, he will never again be on my team because of week 14 of last year, making fantasy managers freak out, myself included, wondering will he or won't he play on a Sunday afternoon in a pivotal week 14. After a social media post indicating he was not going to play, he took to the field and finished as the RB24 with only 8.9 points. No thank you, never ever again. Mark Andrews, tight end, Baltimore Ravens. This utterly breaks my heart, but I have to be realistic when it comes to Andrews. I was all about that life last year, despite some red flags in the offseason. But I believed! His 2020 tight end 5 finish is misleading. He had 6 games of tight end 21 or worse, but also had tight end 1 finishes. It was tight end whiplash almost all season. For this reason, Andrews will be on my never again team because I can't justify the output with players like J.K. Dobbins taking a step forward and rookie wide receiver Rashad Bateman gobbling up targets. I have to cut ties and move on, as much as it pains me. Michael Thomas, wide receiver, New Orleans Saints. I don't know how much more drama I can personally take with Michael Thomas. He utterly destroyed me last year, which I understand was due to injury, but he was also suspended for punching a teammate in the face. Not cool. He is also currently on the PUP list already, which doesn't bode well for the 2021 season. Also, there is no longer a Hall of Fame quarterback, Drew Brees, under center, and the team is going through a quarterback competition between Jameis Winston, who notoriously throws interceptions, or Taysom Hill, who usually just turns to his legs in a pinch. Michael Thomas may still be elite, but that doesn't mean I have to have him on my fantasy team and deal with the headache that is already beginning for the 2021 season. JuJu SmithSchuster, wide receiver, Pittsburgh Steelers. I had high hopes for a bounce-back year for SmithSchuster in 2020, but it was more of a roller coaster than anything else. He finished as the wide receiver 18 with a recovering Ben Roethlisberger, which isn't horrible, but his production was either decently good or really bad. If I'm going to take a chance on a boom or bust player, I want to make sure that these boom games are huge, not low-end wide receiver 1 or high wide receiver 2 finishes. With other options like Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool, JuJu SmithSchuster is relegated to my never again team. And finally, Joe Mixon, running back, Cincinnati Bengals. It will be year 5 for Mixon in the NFL, and I have yet to buy into the running back's future in the NFL. He played a full season only once in 2019 and finished as the RB2 ranked 13th. I get it. When he's on fire, he scores points. The only problem is whether or not he can stay on the field. A point in his favor is that Giovanni Bernard is gone, but there are 5 other running backs on the depth chart behind him. This is another situation where I am not going to deal with the headache of Mixon every week if I can avoid having him on my team altogether. And that wraps up 10 players that are firmly on my never again fantasy squad. Thank you so much for tuning in to this video, and make sure you're following us at FantasyPros on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram so that you don't miss out on any of the content that we'll be pumping out all year long.